I compiled a list of all the MCU villains to analyze deeply who truly reigns supreme as, objectively, the best villain in the MCU. A lot of people have their favorite villain, a lot of people have their least favorite villains, but we need to break this down properly, from the worst to the best, and that's what I'm going to do right now. This is not a complete exhaustive list. I am definitely missing a few people, but chances are if I didn't remember a villain, then they weren't good enough to make the list anyways. There are exceptions to that rule. I probably forgot a lot, but regardless, I'm including Netflix TV, Disney Plus TV, and movies. All this. All right, let's get right to it. Dog shit, dog shit, dog shit wrapped in cat shit. Who was this again? Oh, it's from Eternals, the movie no one liked. Not good at all. What the fuck? Iron Fist. Oh yes, the hand villain from Iron Fist. Terrible villain, and no one wants to remember that show anyways. Malekith from Thor 2. One of the worst things about that movie, nothing about his character is remotely redeemable at all. He's bland as fuck. Red Skull, you're just like a Nazi. That's pretty much his character. Yep. Nobu from Daredevil, the worst villain in the Daredevil show, and yeah. Oh, fuck. I don't know how people like this character. She was the worst part. As soon as she came into WandaVision, she ruined it. Besides Photon, she's the worst part in WandaVision. And I don't know why the hell she's getting her own show. Diamond Head, as soon as Cottonmouth left the fold and he came in, Luke Cage turned into a comedy. He's a very campy character. I kind of like him, to be honest, because he's really unintentionally funny, but not a good villain at all. Not a good villain at all. Was the worst part of Guardians of the Galaxy, but to be honest with you, the only thing I like about him is that his reactions to the Guardians being idiots is unintentionally funny. He just has the funniest facial expressions, so that's a good thing. Oh my god, look how they massacred my boy. Tony Masters in the comics is a badass beyond anyone at times. It's not even the fact that they made her like him into a her in this. I have no problem with that. His problem is she has no personality. She's just like the victim of her father or whatever, and Black Widow saves her at the end, and it adds nothing to the story except a pity party for her. Like, she has the best action sequences in the movie, to be fair, and that's the only good redeemable thing about her, but as a villain she's terrible, and she's a mockery disgrace to the comic book counterpart. They had so much potential, ruined in a terrible fucking Thor movie. I don't like Cassandra Nova at all. She's the weakest part of Deadpool and Wolverine, in my opinion. Her motivations don't make sense. She's bipolar as hell. And yeah, I like, she's just such a stupid, cliched villain. I don't like her. And she's so overpowered. Like, it makes no sense how they're supposed to defeat her. I'm putting him here because you had one of the greatest actors of our generation, Mads Mikkelsen, and you do nothing with him. I don't even remember a single thing this man does. He's just a servant of Dormammu. And Dormammu is a better villain than he is. And Dormammu's like in 2 minutes of the movie. So congrats, bro. Marvel, you failed. I do like Whiplash as a character. I think he's a very personal villain to Tony. He's got a swag and a vibe and an aura about him. Not much more than that, to be honest. That doesn't really make the movie that memorable. Iron Man 2 is not a memorable film. I think he's a decent villain in a mid-movie. He should not be over Whiplash. I don't know why I put him above. I don't like this character at all. He tries to kill the president, and he's a false Mandarin, and he's just a blithering moron. Like, he just wants to defeat Tony in a battle of egos. He's a terrible villain in a mid-movie. Okay villain in a mid-movie, Abomination. I mean, there's not much to him. Good actor, good fight scene at the end. That's about it. Not much to him. I simp for her harder than Daredevil, so I'm biased. She was a villain in Defenders, the main one anyways. Not really a good villain. Pretty bipolar. I don't understand her motivations at all. She's kind of just in love with Matt, and that's it. A good character, and she has the advantage of having a Daredevil season that kind of built her character up, so you kind of understand her a bit, but like as a villain she just does nothing for the show, and Defenders is crap. She's really beautiful though. Baron, probably he's both a villain in Civil War and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, kinda bit. He doesn't really do much in any of those. He's just kind of a likable personality, and that's about it. So yeah. Bushmaster, I don't remember a thing that happened with this character, to be honest, but I think he had good fight scenes. I think he presented a good foil to Luke Cage. Yeah, I don't really know why I put him in here. I don't even remember a thing the guy did, but he's alright, I guess. Decent villain for an Iron Man film. Not great, not bad, just decent. One of the weaker parts of Guardians 3. I don't really like this character. He's one of the worst parts of Guardians 3. He just like is this intellectual dude who wants to blow up the planet, the world, the universe of all life forms that he doesn't deem superior or some shit. And he has like an ego battle with Rocket. The movie's good. I just think he's the weakest part in the movie. Why the fuck would you waste James Spader with this shit? Why would you waste Ultron with this shit? Very rushed villain, to be honest. And he really does absolutely... He just builds an army of robots to take over the world. Oh, fuck. I shouldn't say that on YouTube. Stupid. Ego. He's an okay villain. He's like, what, the father of Peter Quill? And there's an emotional connection there, I guess, so he's alright. And he's such a superior, like, cosmic entity that he doesn't consider humans... like worthy or not worthy. He just doesn't consider them relevant in the grand scheme of things, which makes sense from the perspective of a grand cosmic being like that, so I can understand that. The final act of this movie gets a bit corny. Some of his scenes are corny, but overall decent villain. Okay, Kang, this guy should never have been the ultimate grand MCU villain before his actor, you know, got arrested or whatever the hell. I think the performance in Ant-Man from Jonathan Majors is good. He's got aura about him. He's an intimidating villain, but as the movie goes on, he gets sillier and more cringe, and some of the lines he says are just so laughably bad. And then he has a fight scene with Ant-Man. Like, I don't understand how a character this being of this power is like an Ant-Man villain, but all good. I think the worst thing about Kang is he has so many variants of him that we're supposed to be afraid of that it takes away from the one variant. So yeah, not that great a villain, but the performance is good. I know a lot of people hate this movie. Not a great Spider-Man movie by any means, but I liked him in it. I think he's a good villain for Peter Parker, especially in relation to what he is to Tony Stark. He's kind of like the corrupt Tony Stark with no positive redeeming qualities that Tony Stark had, you know? So I think for Spider-Man's personal journey, he was a good villain. I liked Hela. She probably has the worst scenes in Thor Ragnarok because every scene with her is just overly serious, over exposition, overly evil, but great performance, good charisma, good charm about her. I liked her dialogue with Thor. Good fight scenes too. Decent villain. Okay, I hate this character, but the show wants me to hate her. So that's why I put her really high. I think like Cottonmouth should have been the villain. I hated when she killed him, but like she went from a politician to like a mafia boss, and she's just a corrupt villain. I think some of the stuff that scenes she has with Shades and Luke Cage gets goofy as the series goes along, but I think for what she was a good villain. Green Goblin, this is kind of cheating because Green Goblin is like, we have like a case study with him from the Tobey Maguire movies, so he's not really a villain in that sense, but out of all the villains in No Way Home, he is the main one, and his motivation is kind of just, I'm just gonna fuck with Spider-Man, any Spider-Man. He really became obsessed with fucking with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, even though Tobey Spider-Man was in the same world at one point, so it didn't really make a lot of sense. But for a villain like that, who is just coming from another universe into this and dropped in, he's better than all the villains that we just mentioned. So I'm going to put him up here anyways because Green Goblin's fucking awesome and Norman Osborn is king. I like this villain from Moon Knight. I don't remember his name, but he had aura about him until like the final episode when he gets possessed and becomes a goofball. But besides that, I really like Ethan Hawke's performance. He was great as a cult leader that you felt scared of. Yeah, I liked him. I really like the Vulture as a villain in Spider-Man Homecoming. I think he's one of the best parts of that movie. I liked his back and forth with Peter. I like the fact that he has a personal connection to Peter in the form of having a daughter that Peter likes and wants to bang. Yeah, he was also a very relatable guy. Bucky and the Winter Soldier. Need I say more? Before he turned into a hero, he was a pretty damn good, intimidating villain. With the mask off, he's nowhere near as scary, obviously, because he has a baby face as Bucky. But with the mask on, he's a badass. Scarlet Witch is a very problematic character because a lot of her fan base is just filled with morons who defend her like crazy and say she's the victim and a good guy underneath, even though she's assassinated and exterminated and disintegrated and genocided a bunch of wizards in this movie. But apparently she's redeemable. She does a self-sacrifice thing at the end, which is a bit of a bait and switch and is bullshit by the writers. They should just commit to her going full evil because that's what she is in this movie. And for what she is in this movie, she's a pretty scary villain, and a good one at that. Really powerful too. Mid as fuck movie though. The Mandarin is not a great villain, but a good villain. Especially for Shang-Chi being his father, someone that the son needs to take down, and his motivation to save his wife. I think it works. I think the ending, the final act of this gets stupid because he gets killed by the real villain, which is like this evil kaiju, which I like kaijus, but it kind of took away from his character as a villain. But throughout the movie, for the majority of it, he was a pretty good villain. Loki, good old Loki. We all love Loki. Before he turned into a hero or an anti-hero, he was a pretty damn good villain. Damn good villain in Thor 1. Probably the only good thing about Thor 1, to be honest, other than Chris Hemsworth as Thor in some scenes, I guess. Good villain in Avengers. I like him. Everyone likes Loki. Who doesn't? Killmonger. Great villain for Black Panther. Pretty reasonable motivation. Stupid plan though. I don't know this plan. Oh, let's just supply weapons to black people all over the world and overthrow white people. Like it's just a dumb plan. It makes no sense. I don't like the way Michael B. Jordan played him at times. I think he played him overly serious. I'm not saying he has to be like a funny, jokey villain. I think we need more serious villains, and I'll get to that in my next pick. But I think Michael B. Jordan was playing him too straight, and at times it felt like overacting. I know a lot of people are about to be mad at me for saying this, by the way, because like, oh, it's Killmonger, he's such a great villain, you know, he's the GOAT. He's not anywhere near the best villain in the MCU. He's one of the better villains. His motivation makes sense. His plan sucks and is stupid, and sometimes Michael B. Jordan goes a bit too far with the serious overacting. Okay, I know people are about to kill me. You dare put Namor over Killmonger? Are you crazy? Listen, I know these are controversial takes, but I genuinely believe Namor is a better villain than Killmonger. I think Namor has perfect motivation, but like Killmonger, his plan to overthrow the surface world because of any little thing that happens and he's a very sensitive villain too. One thing goes wrong and this man will go crazy and say, I'm declaring war against the world. That's the only flaw I have with this character. But great dialogue scenes with Shuri. He killed her mother. He like declares war on Wakanda. Like he has a lot of good scenes in this, and he's reasonable at times. And when he shows her Atlantis or whatever the hell it's called, the Marvel version of Atlantis, it's a great scene. I think he's a great villain. I like him better than Killmonger. I do. I think his performance is a bit more nuanced too. The real ones know why I put this man so high. Before he got killed off by the show and their stupid writers, this man was the GOAT. This villain had swag, he had aura, he had dialogue, he had charm. Mahershala Ali put an acting clinic on. Every scene this man had with Luke Cage shades, everyone, he was the best part of that fucking season 1 before he died. When he died, it went to shit. The show went to shit as far as I'm concerned. This guy was the man. Everything about him, his backstory, his origin, his motivations, his ambitions, his mannerisms, every fucking thing about him. Look at this guy, man, with the Biggie crown on the background. This is a bad motherfucker. I don't care what anyone says. This guy was one of the best villains in the MCU and one of second in literally in the top 3 best Netflix Marvel series villains, arguably. But we have a couple more, okay? We're about to get to the real villains now, the ones in the darker shows of the MCU. Kilgrave was legitimately the best thing about the Jessica Jones series. After season 1 was done, the show kind of went to shit. His connection with Jessica Jones, his back and forth with her, how terrifying he is as a villain, and the shit that he does, and the way he's acted too in this fucking show. Kilgrave is one of the villain goats. Okay. One of my personal favorites in my personal favorite Marvel show, Daredevil, Bullseye. This dude it's like a emotional roller coaster with this dude. This guy's his sanity is collapsing in front of our very eyes. He has the skill set that will make you terrified for Matt Murdock's life. He can kill anyone with any object. He's a psychopath, but you understand where he's coming from, and Wilson Fisk's manipulation of this man is some of the best scenes in the MCU. And he yells and screams like crazy. It's amazing. Thanos. We're entering the god tier now, alright? Everyone loves Thanos. Some of you might think Thanos is the best villain in the MCU. I categorically disagree with you because he's not my number one pick, and the number one pick is coming after him. Thanos is great. He snapped his plan worked. He was the best part, arguably, of Infinity War. He was the best part of Infinity War. And Endgame arguably ruined his character, to be honest with you. It kind of did. A little bit. But his motivations make sense. His plan kind of makes sense. It's makes more sense than fucking Killmonger's plan. Cut half the universe, and people will survive. Now, what's going to happen if the universe starts to rebuild again, which it probably will, and repopulate? Well, Thanos doesn't have a plan for that because he destroyed the stones after snapping. So his plan inevitably doesn't make sense. But his character is great aura. The one good thing about villains is you can replace lackluster origin and motivation with aura, and you'll get a great villain. Okay? Thanos has a really good aura about him. That's why people love him the most. And every time he talks with any Avenger like Tony, it's a great scene. Doctor Strange, he's got some of the best dialogues in Infinity War. So, yeah. And finally, the best villain in the MCU. The best. I know a lot of you are about to turn it off. You're about to turn the video off because you're like, what? Fuck, Thanos is not the best. This guy's a fucking fraud. It's Wilson Fisk. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, there's a caveat here. Before he got turned into a Santa Claus-looking buffoon in Hawkeye and got cucked in Echo, this man was a goat. Okay? He's the best villain in Daredevil, and he's the best villain in the Marvel Netflix and MCU because a villain is supposed to serve as a great counterpoint to the hero. No one gets at a protagonist like Fisk gets at Matt Murdock. You could argue, well, Thanos was rent-free in Tony's head for the entire of the MCU. I agree with you. We saw Matt Murdock fantasize about killing Fisk about 100 times in this. Fisk represents everything Matt Murdock hates, but they both love their city, right? Fisk wants to build a better city by tearing it down. Matt Murdock wants to save the city at all costs because it's in his blood. They're both mirrors to each other, right? They're both reflections of each other. Fisk is his polar opposite in every way, and yet they share so many of the same traits. And Fisk is fucking terrifying as a villain, bro. This guy breaks people's heads open with his fist. He cut off a dude's head with a car door. No other villain scares the shit out of you like this man, especially when he's about to get angry. If you threaten Vanessa once, run away. Run away. He's the best villain in MCU history. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm here to serve justice to the fan base, to the superhero films, to cinema. What I say goes. Definitive list right here. Wilson Fisk is a goat. Go check out my video about Spider-Man and Green Goblin's fight and how it's better than any MCU film, any MCU current modern movie at all. It's a great video. You should check it out and like and subscribe.